Look, think about the last time you cried. Maybe it was during a movie. Maybe you were overwhelmed with stress at work. Or maybe you just stubbed your toe really, really hard. Whatever the reason, water leaked out of your eyes, ran down your face, and probably made you feel a little bit better. But here is a bizarre fact that most people never realize. We are the only species on this entire planet that cries emotional tears. I mean, think about it. Dogs whine when they are sad. Cats yowl. Elephants mourn their dead. But none of them, literally none of them, shed tears out of pure sorrow. Sure, animals have tear ducts. They need them to keep their eyes from drying out. If a dog gets dust in its eye, it will water. But emotional crying? Crying because you feel something deep in your soul? That is exclusively 100% human. So why? Why did evolution look at early humans trying to survive in a brutal, unforgiving world and decide, you know what these guys need? They need to leak salt water from their face when they get sad. It sounds ridiculous when you put it like that, right? I mean, from a purely survival standpoint, crying makes absolutely no sense. It blurs your vision, making you vulnerable to predators. It wastes precious water and electrolytes, which were incredibly hard to come by for early humans. And it visibly signals to everyone around you that you are weak or distressed. In the wild, showing weakness usually gets you killed. So why on earth did we evolve to do this? Well, the answer is deeply connected to the very thing that made us the dominant species on this planet. Our ability to connect, empathize, and form complex societies. But before we get into the deep psychology of it all, I have to ask, have you ever noticed that you always feel better after a really good cry? Let me know down in the comments if you are the type of person who holds it in, or if you just let it all out when things get tough. I am genuinely curious how different people handle it. To really understand why we cry, we have to start at the very beginning. With babies. When a baby is born, it cries. It screams. It wails. But have you ever noticed that newborn babies don't actually produce tears? For the first few weeks of life, their tear ducts aren't fully developed. Their crying is purely vocal. It is an acoustic alarm system designed to get the parent's attention immediately. But as we grow older, that acoustic alarm becomes a problem. If you are a tribe of early humans hiding from a saber-toothed tiger, a loud, screaming adult is going to get everyone killed. We needed a way to signal distress, pain, or a need for help without making a sound. Evolution needed a silent alarm. And that is exactly what tears are. They are a visual distress signal that can be seen by our tribe, but completely ignored by predators hunting by sound. So, let's break down the actual anatomy of a tear. Because not all tears are created equal. Biologically speaking, there are 3 completely different types of tears. First, you have basal tears. These are the unsung heroes of your eyes. They are constantly being produced, forming a thin, lubricating layer over your cornea every single time you blink. Without basal tears, your eyes would dry up, get infected, and you would go completely blind in a matter of days. Then, you have reflex tears. These are the emergency responders. If you chop an onion, or walk into a smoky room, or get a piece of sand in your eye, your body instantly floods the eye with reflex tears to wash out the irritant. These 2 types of tears, every land mammal has them. They are basic biology. But then, there is the 3rd type, the emotional tear. This is the one that has baffled scientists for centuries. In fact, Charles Darwin, the father of evolutionary theory, called emotional crying entirely purposeless. He literally thought it was just an accidental side effect of the muscles around the eyes contracting when we feel intense pain. But Darwin was wrong. Modern science has put emotional tears under the microscope, and what they found is absolutely fascinating. Emotional tears are chemically different from the other types of tears. When scientists analyzed reflex tears, like the ones you get from chopping an onion, they found that they are mostly just water, salt, and some antibacterial enzymes. But emotional tears? They are packed with powerful hormones. Specifically, they contain high levels of prolactin, adrenocorticotropic hormone, and leucine and kephalin. Now, you might be thinking, okay, what do those big science words actually mean for me? Well, adrenocorticotropic hormone is a stress hormone. When you are overwhelmed, anxious, or terrified, your body builds up a massive amount of this chemical. By crying, you are literally, physically, flushing stress hormones out of your body. You are sweating out your stress, but through your eyes. And that leucine and kephalin, that is an endorphin. It is a natural painkiller that reduces pain and improves your mood. So when people say that a good cry makes them feel better, they aren't just being dramatic. Their body is literally giving them a dose of natural painkillers and flushing out toxic stress chemicals. It is a built-in emotional reset button. If you are finding this fascinating, do me a favor and hit that like button. It really helps the video out and lets me know that you enjoy these deep dives into human psychology and biology. But the chemical release is only half the story. Because if crying was just about releasing stress, we could just sweat it out, right? Or we could breathe it out. Why did evolution choose the eyes? Why did it choose a mechanism that fundamentally impairs our vision in moments of high stress? This brings us to the social theory of crying. And this is where things get really, really interesting. Humans are not the strongest animals. We are not the fastest. We don't have sharp claws, or thick armor, or venom. Our superpower, the only reason we survived and conquered the globe, is our ability to work together. Our hypersocial nature. To survive, early humans had to trust each other completely. They had to know who needed help, who was in pain, and who was suffering. Crying evolved as an ultra-clear, unmistakable visual signal of extreme vulnerability. Think about it from an evolutionary perspective. When you cry, your vision blurs. You can't see properly. You are effectively disabling yourself. You are showing the people around you, I am defenseless right now. I need help. I surrender. And because humans evolved as a cooperative species, we are hardwired to respond to that signal. When you see someone crying, it triggers a powerful empathetic response in your brain. Your mirror neurons fire up. You feel a sudden, almost irresistible urge to comfort them, to protect them, or to help them. Crying is the ultimate tool for eliciting empathy. Before humans developed complex language, before we could say, I am feeling overwhelmed and I need emotional support, we could cry. It is a universal language. You don't need to speak someone's language to know what it means when tears are running down their face. And it prevents aggression, too. Studies have shown that when people see tears on someone's face, their own aggressive tendencies drop significantly. It is incredibly difficult to stay angry at someone who is crying, because the tears act as a biological surrender flag. They lower the defenses of everyone in the room. Now, this also explains why men and women often cry differently. And no, it is not just societal conditioning. There is hard biology at play here. Remember how I mentioned that emotional tears contain a hormone called prolactin? Well, women naturally have significantly higher levels of prolactin in their bodies than men do. At the same time, men have much higher levels of testosterone. Research has shown that prolactin actually lowers the threshold for crying. It makes the tear response easier to trigger. Testosterone, on the other hand, actively suppresses the tear response. So, biologically, men are chemically wired to cry less easily than women. But wait, there is an anatomical difference, too. Scientists have measured the tear ducts of men and women, and they found that men's tear ducts are actually larger. This means that a man's eyes can hold more liquid before the tears actually spill over the eyelids and roll down the cheeks. A woman's tear ducts are smaller, meaning the tears overflow much faster. So the next time someone tries to tell you that boys don't cry, well, they do. Their biology just makes the process look a little different. Now, some researchers have proposed even wilder theories about where tears came from. Have you ever heard of the aquatic ape hypothesis? It is a highly controversial idea that suggests early humans went through a phase of evolution where we lived in semi-aquatic environments, like shorelines and shallow waters. Proponents of this theory argue that this is why we are hairless, why we have a layer of subcutaneous fat like marine mammals, and why we cry saltwater tears. They suggest that crying evolved as a way for our semi-aquatic ancestors to excrete excess salt from their bodies, similar to how marine birds and sea turtles have salt glands that make them look like they are crying when they are on land. Over time, the theory goes, this salt-excreting mechanism became linked to our emotional centers. Now, most mainstream anthropologists completely reject the aquatic ape theory, but it just goes to show how bizarre and unique human crying really is. We are so desperate to explain it that we are willing to believe we used to be literal mermaids. If you have made it this far, you are clearly someone who loves understanding the deeper psychology of human behavior. So if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. I explore fascinating psychological and historical mysteries like this all the time, and I would absolutely love to have you along for the journey. So let's stick to the proven science. We know that crying builds social bonds. We know it flushes stress hormones. But what about tears of joy? Why do we cry when we win an award, or see a loved one after a long time, or watch our favorite team win the championship? If crying is a signal of distress and a plea for help, why do we do it when we are perfectly happy? Well, neurologically speaking, the brain doesn't always distinguish between extreme sadness and extreme joy. To the brain, extreme emotion is just a massive spike of arousal. The autonomic nervous system gets completely overwhelmed. The heart rate spikes, the breathing gets shallow, the muscles tense up. The body realizes it is in a state of extreme neurological overload, and it desperately needs to return to homeostasis. It needs to calm down. So, it pulls the emergency lever. It triggers the tear response. Tears of joy are exactly the same mechanism as tears of sorrow. It is the body's emergency valve, opening up to release the pressure of overwhelming emotion, regardless of whether that emotion is positive or negative. It is your brain saying, okay, this is way too much feeling for one human to process at once. Let's flush the system before we short-circuit. So, what happens when we try to fight our own biology? What happens in modern society, where crying is often seen as embarrassing or unprofessional or a sign of weakness? We live in a culture that constantly tells us to man up, to hide our emotions, to never let them see you sweat or cry. But as we have just learned, crying isn't a weakness. It is a biological necessity. When you suppress the urge to cry, you aren't just hiding your emotions from the world. You are physically trapping stress hormones in your body. You are denying yourself a natural dose of painkillers. And worst of all, you are cutting off the deepest, most primal form of human connection we possess. People who constantly suppress their tears are actually more likely to suffer from stress-related disorders, high blood pressure, and severe anxiety. Because that physiological pressure has to go somewhere. If you don't let it out through your eyes, it will eat away at you from the inside out. It will manifest as muscle tension, as headaches, as chronic fatigue. Evolution spent millions and millions of years perfecting this system. It gave us a mechanism to heal ourselves, to calm our overloaded nervous systems, and to silently signal to our tribe that we need them. Crying is not a breakdown. It is a breakthrough. It is the body functioning exactly as it was beautifully designed to. So the next time you feel that heavy lump forming in your throat, the next time you feel your eyes start to sting and blur, don't fight it. Let it happen. You are literally participating in the most unique, deeply human ritual on the entire planet. You are doing something that no other animal can do. You are feeling so deeply and living so intensely that your body literally overflows. And honestly, there is something incredibly beautiful about that. What do you think? Has modern society made us too afraid to show our tears? Do you think we would be healthier if we just let ourselves cry more often? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I read every single one of them. Until next time, stay curious and don't be afraid to let it out.